All right, everybody. I have a special guest today for another episode of The Growth Code. My name is Ethen Ostroff. I'm a lawyer and entrepreneur in the Philadelphia area. I am going to be bringing on people that will benefit business owners, entrepreneurs, lawyers, operators of businesses or law firms. Today, I have a really special operator to talk about his firm and the impact that he's made in the mass tort space and the personal injury space and beyond. And he's just my boy, and I love catching up with Joe. So without further ado, great to have you, Joe. I'm pumped you're here. Thanks for making the trip. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ethen. Really excited about your new podcast here and talking to you about, how we both were able to grow our businesses and some of the mistakes we made along the way and some lessons we've learned hard, but very important for any business owner out there.
Yeah, the goal today is to give you a few nuggets that will hopefully help you avoid something we have gone through and will save you a lot of time and money and frustration. So, Joe, tell us a little bit about yourself. Maybe, obviously you're an attorney, but you're a lot more than just an attorney. So tell us maybe about what you do as a lawyer when you're wearing lawyer cap, and then what you do on wearing business cap, and maybe a little personal stuff about you.
Yeah, so I'm the managing partner over at Rosen Injury Lawyers. We have a unique firm in that we solely practice mass torts, which is a weird niche area of law not a lot of people know about. A lot of my lawyer friends have no clue what it is either, so we'll talk a little bit about that. But my history started after I graduated college. Actually, I was a plumber for a couple years. My dad's a plumber, my brother's a plumber, my stepbrother's a plumber. So I was just going to be a plumber, but then I went to law school at night, and then I applied for a clerkship in Philadelphia with Judge New, and I didn't have the credentials, and I didn't get it. But then I asked to work for free with him for a summer, and that introduced me to this weird world of mass torts that I never heard of before. And so I really saw these huge cases with these attorneys I always idolized and saw the big impact they had. And then that started me on this weird little journey here over the last 15 years where I'm one of the few attorneys in the country that clerked for a mass tort judge, worked at an insurance defense firm defending Big Pharma for a while, went over to a really prominent mass tort firm in Philadelphia, and then the last 7 years I've been over at Rosen and grew that business from just me to about 70 employees and 40,000 cases. So it's been a crazy journey. Not what I expected when I started law school, but it's been fun. And like you said at the start, I learned a lot of lessons, made a lot of mistakes. So we'll get into that here.
So on the personal side, tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe where you live, what your passions are outside of work, and, who you are as a person.
So, I'm from Philadelphia, grew up in the suburbs, not far from you, lived downtown for 15 plus years, love all things Philadelphia. I love the sports, go Birds, we'll win the Super Bowl. I love the food scene.
This was shot right before the Super Bowl, just FYI.
I love the food scene. I love the people. So Northeasterner, just like you, love to travel as well, get out, kind of meet some of our colleagues that I've had the opportunity in the last couple years to do as part of work.
Cool. So a couple of things. One basic question, just explain to the audience two things, all right? So one, what is a mass tort? And two, what's the difference between a mass tort and a class action? Because I hear a lot of people make those mistakes.
Right. So I'll start with the second question there. Everybody knows what a class action is. For example, me, you, everybody was getting charged extra $10 a month by AT&T on our phone bill. We didn't do anything about it. We didn't even know about it. Somebody in Iowa files a class action lawsuit on behalf of them and all similarly situated individuals. 2 years later, we get a postcard, we get an email saying, hey, this happened to you. You were charged extra. Do you want to get in on the class action? We check the box. A couple months later, we get a check for $50. That's a class action, so it involves a lot of people injured by a similar situation, the overcharging by AT&T. Mass tort's similar in that it's a large group of people, thousands, hundreds of thousands potentially, injured by a similar, usually product, and then everybody has different injuries. So in a mass tort, the individual needs to come forward. So if you sit on the sidelines, don't do anything, you miss out. And then what you ultimately get at the end of the day, your award is based upon the factors of your case. Maybe you had more treatment. Maybe you lost the job. Maybe you were younger. Unfortunately, we see people who died. So a mass tort involves hundreds or thousands of people injured by a similar product, but you have to come forward to make a claim. So very weird area of law, but there's hundreds of thousands, even more than 1 million active mass tort cases right now as we sit here today.
1 million cases. Just let that sink in. So there are 1 million plaintiffs out there who have been injured by a product that they use sometimes in their daily life and don't even know is cancer causing or injury causing. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And we usually see about 8 to 10% of the people that were hurt to come forward. So even though there's 1 million active cases, there's more than 10 million people out there. And that's what mass tort is really about, and something you've done really well is it's kind of this educational-based marketing. Mm-hmm. So it's not like a car accident where you break your back and you know you were hurt. Here we have people that are using what they thought were trusted brands, trusted products for years. Their family used them for decades, and they get this rare injury, and they don't know. Yeah. And so it's up to us who then go out there and educate them, hey, this could have happened to you. And then that's the information that makes them then come forward.
So I'll take 2 active litigations that I think might shock people listening to this. You know, there are lawyers that I know that don't know about a lot of these dangerous chemicals. Lawyers, not just, you know, averagely educated people, people who are very educated that don't know about these things. Let's take one that is still sold at Lowe's right now, Roundup. So, you know, Roundup is linked with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and several other kinds of branch cancers related to non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And then, you know, separately, our tap water. You know, there is a nationwide issue with tap water causing cancer, ulcerative colitis, and several other issues. So, you know, what is the impact of these kinds of cases, and why don't people take them serious or even know about them?
Right, and that's a great question. So we'll start with Roundup. That product's been on the market since the 70s. I've used it, you used it, everybody we know has used Roundup because it works. It works excellent, and it kills the weeds, but it also causes cancer. And so these cases have been going on for almost a decade now. There were 100,000 cases settled for $11 billion about 4 years ago, and now they're still ongoing. There's more than 60,000 cases. And so it's interesting, like you said, you could go to the store now, to Home Depot, and buy it. What these companies do is this tactic where then they change the active ingredients. So the Roundup we buy today would be different than it was 2 or 3 years ago. And nobody told you it was different. We saw the same thing with Zantac. There was a recall of Zantac. They pulled it from the shelves. There's Zantac 365. Nobody knows it's different. Same thing with the Johnson & Johnson baby powder.
These are real brands.
Right. Real brands, real products. Johnson & Johnson baby powder, a talc that causes cancer. They changed
ovarian cancer specifically. And that product, I actually have an ad saved that I found before it was deleted on YouTube because I look for it now. I can't find it. There are ads from Johnson & Johnson that used to brand this as shower to shower before it was baby powder. And the advertisement was freshen up after the shower everywhere. And it's linked with ovarian cancer. So, you know, these are companies that, you know, probably know these things are dangerous and create brand identities around usage to, you know, turn serious profit. And within that profit margin, they're allocating money when they're going to get sued one day. So, you know, why is this okay? Why do we just live with this and not ask questions?
Right, and that's kind of the role of what attorneys do. You know, like a regular person, they can't fight Johnson & Johnson one-on-one. It's not a fair fight. They can't fight Bayer. These huge companies that make billions, hundreds of billions of dollars. and nobody can fight them one-on-one.
So this brings up a good point. Like, why shouldn't people file these cases themselves? Why should they participate in the mass tort system?
Right. So there's really strength in numbers. So the pharmaceutical companies, these big companies, national, international companies, they have the top lawyers working on these cases. And when you get together with another group of plaintiffs, you can have that strength in numbers and kind of work together to uncover what they knew and when did they know it. You know, there's documents that go back decades where there were concerns about it. That one you were talking about, the PFAS, the water drinking cases where we are here outside Philadelphia, you know, out near the Air Force Base in Willow Grove 15, 20 years ago, we knew people that were getting cancer.
And we're working on a couple of those cases together.
Right. And it didn't make sense. Why is everybody in this one area getting this rare type of cancer? And then it comes out, you know, there's these chemicals that were in this firefighting foam that then gets into the water. And there's even a whistleblower for 3M that shows 30, 40 years ago, they knew that these chemicals, you know, were dangerous and could cause cancer. And what seems like to be just a business decision, they said, we're going to keep selling it. We're going to keep using it. And exactly like you said, we'll allocate $10 billion, but we'll make $100 billion for our investors. And we're going to do that.
The person that tipped me off about the PFAS litigation lives on the Tennessee River, Hunter Garnett, my boy, who I think actually introduced us going back in time.
He did.
And, you know, the Tennessee River might be one of the most contaminated water sources on the planet because it's right where the 3M factory is. But, you know, just transitioning to trying to give value back to our listeners. So I kind of had like a humanity give them value back, then talking to the finance people out there, like what is the financial opportunity with this mass tort case type? And then third, like how does an average firm get involved in this? So first, what are like, just to keep it simple, what are like the 10 products that are around us right now? Products, water, air, what are the things people should like research before they just simply use without thinking about?
Yeah, the top one is Roundup. We talked about that. And then we're going to get into this PFAS, contaminated drinking water all around us. Then there's the hair relaxers, which is a product that women, predominantly African American women, use. Again, linked to ovarian and uterine
Otherwise
cancer.
called as perms.
Perms. And then we also, a new one that just came out a couple months ago was Depo-Provera, which is a form of birth control that's in a shot. And that's been linked to this really rare type of brain tumor. So those are everyday products. Other ones that we've worked on, Zantac. Everybody knows somebody that took Zantac. A huge one right now is those weight loss medications.
Ozempic and Wegovy, and they linked with stomach paralysis and other issues.
Yep, so those are some of the most prescribed medications ever in the history of mankind. Other ones we're working on a bunch of cases together, these bear hugger cases. Mm-hmm. So that's a device that we found has been used in between 80 to 85% of procedures.
Yeah, so bear hugger is basically like a warming blanket. A lot of people after knee or hip surgeries have this warming blanket cover them, and it's linked with infections that cause revision surgeries or even amputations or death in some circumstances.
Yeah. And that's, you know, everyday products that you would come across, you know, whether you're doing landscaping, you're treating your GERD, you're going to have a procedure, you come across these, and then even you're just drinking water. You know, every day, every regular people, every person living here, they use these products and they know people that have been impacted and developed one of these very, very rare injuries associated with them.
Yeah, so two things that kind of come to mind on that side that I think could be helpful. So download an app called the Yucca app. I don't have an affiliation with them. It is an app that you can scan a barcode of something. It will tell you the cleanliness or amount of chemicals are in something. I use it at the grocery store, like things like your deodorant, your shampoo. You know, the cheaper it is, the probably more chemicals are in it. So if you're using Old Spice and it has aluminum in it, that's potentially linked with cancer. So there could be the next mass tort happening in your bathroom, happening in your kitchen, you know, and you don't even know it. So start by just like question what you use every day. just question it. I know it's annoying because you're going to break a routine, but question these products and know that these companies cut corners. And download Yuka, scan them, and be honest with yourself if you're using a 1 out of 100 dangerous product.
And exactly like you're saying, these everyday products, we're seeing mass torts has evolved from more drug and device cases 10 years ago into consumer products. So two other really hot ones now that we're both involved with are the toxic baby food. So there are these companies like Gerber, and there's allegations that there's heavy metals, and come to find out it's not regulated at all. I was shocked to hear that. So some states started rolling that out, but there's now laws where they have to disclose if there's heavy metals, and there's studies linking it to autism or ADHD, which is obviously a huge problem now. I saw something, maybe 1 in 34 children born now either has autism or ADHD. And then another one that potentially could be the biggest mass tort ever is this ultra processed food. So looking into cases where juveniles are eating, everyday food that we consume, whether it's Doritos or
Coca-Cola,
sodas, from these huge companies.
Heinz ketchup, very sugar-based.
Everything out there, really. And then it's been linked to type 2 diabetes and fatty liver. So those consumer products that we touch and use every day, us, and then I know you have a young child, you're trying to do everything to protect them. And unfortunately, there's these products out there that could danger them.
We think are safe. And Gerber was a very trusted brand for decades.
Right.
And it's giving our kids autism. So, these aren't just like baseless, no science-based things we're talking about right now. You and I are probably in a select few of, 25 to 50 people who read the science, understand litigation, are looking at where it's going, both from a business and marketing perspective. There's not that many of us in this space.
Right.
There's definitely people that know more than both of us, but we're at least paying attention. Like, these are real. This isn't just made up conspiracy theories that are happening. These are millions of people out there that have these cancers and issues.
Yeah, exactly like you're saying. There's only 25, 50 firms probably in the country that are really involved in that. And it's all science-based. We're at a contingent-based law firm, so we don't get paid, unless the work we do gets a result for our clients. So these cases we really believe in, and we have support from experts, the top in their various fields that support these cases. So it's really opened my eyes to what's out there and really the risk with all of these products that maybe the companies don't warn about as much as they should. But in the last couple years, it seems to getting worse now that we're getting a little bit smarter and we're asking more questions, which I think benefits everybody out there.
Yeah, shit, I distill my own water. I will fully admit that on camera. I distill my own water. And I use that in coffee machines, humidifiers, because the Conchi tap is very hard. And what comes out of that water distiller is pretty eye-opening when you do it, but not the most fun task. In my next house, I'm getting a full reverse osmosis, but all right. So one more thing just to help people, specifically on water. I'm exceptionally passionate about clean water. What is a thing that you can tell people straight up, go buy this water treatment thing. This is going to prevent you from maybe getting cancer one day. What is that one thing?
I think the kind of products and the filtration system that you have, the osmosis, like that's probably the safest, because it seems honestly every day there's a new study, there's a new article coming out saying how contaminated the water is. And it's not just, one specific little hot area. There were some settlements, and basically these water suppliers have recovered $14 billion so far from these manufacturers like 3M and DuPont. And basically,
why did they get that settlement?
Basically, they're saying, these are our chemicals that are in this water facilities, this area. It has to all be redone. And I know there's a lot of companies out there that are trying to come up with solutions for the PFAS, but none of that would be possible unless there were lawyers out there bringing this to the forefront.
The reality is our water treatment providers in our country right now are not built to pull this stuff out of the water. So it's just cycling in one circle. So we at, Willow Grove and these military bases. Every military base across the country, there are some of these issues. Water, if you assume it's not clean as opposed to assuming it's clean, your life trajectory may be impacted by that now.
Yeah, no, that's true. And this is a huge problem. And I think over the next 2 to 3 years, we'll really uncover more and see how bad it is. But the government's getting involved. There's more testing. The standards are going to be stricter, and we'll learn a lot. But it is concerning what we see on this kind of every day in this PFAS case, which could be one of the biggest ones ever.
So not to be all doom and gloom, it was very important to me for us to spend time talking about the actual work we're doing, because it feels like we're sometimes alone working on this work and people don't buy how serious this is. So I wanted to spend time with you just talking about the seriousness of the work we're doing. Now let's talk about the potential fun part, which is the business aspect of it. So, why are venture capital firms and hedge fund money, why is everyone now talking about how do they get a piece of this action?
Because they're smart. They're smarter than probably us. They see the potential here. So we're going and involved in the biggest cases, and that's why me and you like to be involved, because we can have the biggest impact on the clients, right?
Why don't you just run the numbers on Roundup? What does a Roundup investment maybe look like let's do a conservative scenario?
Yeah, so Roundup, like I said, it's already settled for $11 billion. Bayer, who's now controls it, they've said they've already set aside between $6 to $8 billion to resolve the future litigation. So we know that the money's there, they're interested in resolving it, but there's certain case criteria that we know they've paid on. So somebody who used Roundup for 50 plus hours, they were diagnosed with this non-Hodgkin lymphoma or a subtype, and then the records are proving out at a high clip. So 80% of those cases end up proving out. So each case is different what people are going to get, but
let's go average.
Like an average settlement value for a case?
Yeah, for the legal fee. So do gross, just do the math, make it work so people understand investment in ROI and understand the facts here.
Yeah, so, there's been reports that the cases are settling anywhere between $60,000 to $100,000. Like I said, there were 100,000 cases. They settled for a little under $11 billion. So right there, the math is, about 100,000 a case. Each case is going to be different on how much the client gets, but dependent upon that, we're seeing 80% of these cases turn out from the record. So you can go out into the marketplace now, get a case for a couple $1,000, and then about 80% of the cases you sign up, if you have the right criteria, end up proving out. So, people are seeing 3, 4x on kind of their return on investment.
Yeah, so you buy a case for, let's say that you're partnering with someone, you're referring them the case, and let's say you get a 50-50 partnership. I'm just making this up.
Right.
You spend, just conservatively, $4,000 to go buy this case.
Yep.
You said that, let's say, $60,000. That's a $24,000 legal fee. Fair.
Right. Yep.
So you cut that in half, $12,000. You're looking at a, pretty decent return there.
Yep.
Now let's talk about the shitty part.
Yeah.
How long does this take?
Sure. So yeah, like the example you were saying, the spend would be the $4,000 to go out, market, all of your costs to get a signed, viable contract based upon the case criteria. Even on the lower end, if you're getting $60,000 recovery, 40% for the law firms, $24,000. Split that in half, it's still a 3x on that $4,000. So that's very appealing, and that's why the hedge fund money, private equity is interested in these cases.
Yep, and with the law change in Arizona, Utah, DC, we're starting to see ways that money can find its way to these cases.
Yep, so with the ABS in Arizona, non-lawyers are able to have some sort of equity in these cases.
Or even just partnering with an Arizona lawyer, they can work with non-lawyer money.
Yep, and so we probably saw it in the last 3 to 5 years, this money kind of coming in, the interest coming in. And what other, I guess the main concern with these cases, mass torts, is, nothing's a sure thing. There's no guarantee in anything, but the life cycle of a mass tort is long, right? An average case could be about 5 years, and it could even be longer.
Worse.
It could be,
I've seen worse.
It could be 7 years, but usually from the time there's that triggering event, whether
recall or whatever.
Yeah, the recall, the study, it takes about 6 months to a year for the lawsuits to really get up and running in a good sequence. And then usually it's about 3 years from that point until some sort of resolution. So from then, it's about staying on top of it, staying in touch with the client, setting the expectations, letting them know, we're working on it. But I always give the example, like, we've all had friends that owed us $10. Like, it's hard to get that $10 from your friend. Imagine trying to get $1 billion from an enemy that thinks you're making it all up and there's nothing wrong with their product. It's hard. These are big fights, big companies, so it does take a long time. But what the opportunity is for the hedge funds or just individuals who have law firms out there is it's all about the educational based marketing. So a news blast, you're really prevalent on social media, putting together these. So, tell a little bit about what success you've seen the best on some of the marketing you've done.
Yeah, so the concept I like to use is something I describe as misconception marketing. The biggest difference between the easiest thing to understand you have a personal injury case on to the hardest one that you have a mass tort on, let's say you got rear-ended at a stop sign. Pretty much across the country, everybody knows that wasn't their fault. If they got hurt, they probably have a personal injury case.
Right.
That person, you're going to win them through Google because they have intent, they have knowledge, they know they're looking for car accident, lawyer near me, and you're going to spend consistently, $2,200, $2,500 with all those clicks to turn that into a case. Yes, the cash flow is quicker, but that person, they know they have a case. You're talking to someone who is going through the worst thing of their life, like being told they have cancer, and they don't know why. So you're telling them exactly that. Hey, do you have non-Hodgkin's lymphoma? Have you ever used Roundup? Your non-Hodgkin's lymphoma maybe is connected to the Roundup use. Click below to speak with us. Keep it simple. If you tell someone about the case they don't know they have, you have to pick a case category where that applies. It doesn't work in car accident. That's why so many law firms across the country, they tried social media ads, which is higher in the funnel. Lower in the funnel is they have the intent. They know about what they're researching. Rear end lawyer near me. Whereas all the people in this world of mass tort, they don't know. They don't know their cancer's from this. And even if they see you say it, they might need to go look on your social media and see you say it 5 times before they actually reach out to you because they don't want to believe it.
Right.
And, for you to tell somebody your kidney cancer, your testicular cancer is because you drank water, you bathed, you showered, you cooked with food, you live in the United States, you expect certain things like that your water's clean. And now you're learning your ulcerative colitis is from water. You're shocking people. So educate them, ask for them to reach out to you. If they went through that, then intake them from there.
Right, and that's a hard concept. The water, these hair relaxer products, the J&J, families have used them for decades. A mother handed it down to their daughter and said, this is what we use. This is how we do it. We trust this product. And that's why it's about that educational base. So the social media is really effective. We see news blasts letting people know, hey, this could have happened to you. Like Depo-Provera, it's been used for decades, right? Nobody thought there was any problem. We just learned of this study recently, a couple months ago, and now there's going to be 30, 50,000 lawsuits easily. And like I said, usually only about 8 to 10% of the people who are hurt come forward. They could be dead.
Yep.
They don't believe it. They don't hear about it. So that's why it's up to us as attorneys to get that information out there because a product they know, liked, and trust for so long actually really harms them.
Yeah, I'll give you the subject of your next newsletter. You may not realize it, ... And then take it from there. You could create endless content with, you may not realize it, ... You may not realize it, but where you live, your tap water may be contaminated. If you have any of these issues, we're happy to talk to you. So this transitions nicely to the last thing I want to talk about. So law firms across the country, in my opinion, have decades of a gold mine of data. They may be, you might be a Indiana personal injury law firm, and you had been reached out to people about ovarian cancer for the last 30 years. And you may not have realized that that was a mass tort that you could tap into. So there are a lot of listeners out here that maybe they do get reached out to by the 1 or 2 person a month about these very nuanced fact patterns. How do they turn these contacts into money?
Right. So even people actively reaching out to them, but also that newsletter that you're saying, a newsletter with the blast saying, hey, this could be you. You might not have realized that ovarian cancer is linked to Johnson & Johnson, shower to shower. So that data, like you're saying, hundreds of clients, and they have that relationship, whether it's a PI firm, a family law, a criminal, they have that trust with these clients where they can educate them easier than me or you coming from the sidelines trying to let them know about it. That's a really low-hanging fruit, good opportunity for them. But
it's free leads, free cases.
And there's a lot of people out there, and we're helping them. You've helped them with the car crash. You've helped them with an immigration issue. You've gotten them a good result. Now you can help them with something else.
Oh, by the way, you might not realize it.
Right, and that's easy. And we get a lot of referrals from people just like that. So what we do is we send out these news blasts. I'm happy to share them with anybody. What our firm says, hey, just exactly like you said, you might not have realized that Roundup's linked to non-Hodgkin lymphoma. You might not realize that Ozempic is causing these severe stomach problems. If this happened to you, reach out. So there's a way, and then, people can reach out to me directly. I just specialize in mass tort, so I do this all day, every day. Yeah. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, where I try to post about the most recent developments.
Follow Joe. Joe puts out power rankings of mass torts pretty much once a week or so. Is that right?
Yeah, once a month I do the power rankings of which cases, I'm actively involved with and my reasoning for that.
Yeah.
But every day I try to give an update on the latest in any mass tort. Usually there's about 20 different mass torts going on at any given time. So you're definitely sitting on cases right now in your inventory. You can help people with no cost to you, and it's all about that educational-based marketing.
Yeah, so I'm just going to give you guys some advice on this. How do you find a partner for these cases? How many questions should you ask? If you reach out to someone like Joe and say, hey, I got one of these, you should just get the script so you have it on hand, and if those questions come up again, now you're ready for it the next time. And typically, from a referral fee standpoint, if you send one of us, and I don't handle mass torts yet, at some point I will. If you send us one case a month, you're not going to get 50-50. It's just unrealistic to expect that, especially if you're not getting, the way that we would partner is I would generate the cases, get them signed up, get certain things verified, pass it to him with a package and a bow on it, say, hey, talk to this client, they're ready for you, they're ready to go. That's why I was able to ask for higher referral fees. You should expect anywhere from, if you're one-off sending a case to someone like Joe, who maybe you want to think about sending some mass torts to, a third is a little normal for you to get pretty much across the board for like the once in a while mass tort. But if you're starting to send some volume, you can ask for more than that, and you might get it if you send 5 a month and you want to invest in a certain tort or partner on a bigger scale. That's where you start to ask and get bigger fees on these kinds of cases.
Yeah, each relationship's different, and some people just email and say, hey, here's a name of this person who might have used Roundup. And then there's other people that go much further and do much more, like you, with that verified information. You double checked it, you have all of the providers, you have all of that information. So depending upon the level of commitment, how much time you want to really invest, there's an opportunity for everybody to get involved. And that's something I'm kind of passionate about recently, is just breaking down that barrier to entry in mass torts. It's always been this big secret, and the firms at the top don't want everybody in. What I'm trying to do is let everybody get in. Whether you have one case or 5 cases, there's a room. Or if you have, 10, 20,000 cases like other firms, there's room for everybody. And we're all helping people getting these products off the market and really having a big impact.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I know Joe pretty well. Joe just cares about helping people. I just care about helping people. If you want to get into the mass tort space and you help people know why they have their cancer, it's going to feel pretty fucking good for you. Like, you're going to enjoy helping people. You're going to get as much out of it as your clients will, getting that answer that they didn't know about a, horrible life sentence they were just given.
Right. These people did nothing wrong, and we're here to educate them and help them along the process. And you really make a difference in their lives and then in the future. Like, hopefully in 20, 30 years, PFAS in drinking water is not a thing. But it's going to be a long fight to get there. A lot of people have been hurt, and we can work together to really bring about a change for the individual client and then really society overall.
Yeah, so they're really, last thing to leave you guys with. So there are really 2 parts to this. Part 1, everybody right now, you're already in the mass tort game. You're just not referring the leads the right way. If you ever get something questionable, cancer-related, damage-related, we don't get offended by you just sending it to us. We'll verify it. And we know all the variations, and we'll come back to you and educate you and say, hey, that one turned out to be a pretty serious case in this very specific thing. You might not have realized it. So we'll help you learn by just don't be lazy about referring out the cases. Refer it out. You're not going to offend us. And then part 2, if you want to actually spend time learning about this practice area and invest like a diversified tort portfolio in these practice areas, there's space for you too. But if you generate 1 case a year or 10,000 cases a year, there is an opportunity in this space where you are helping people, most importantly.
Yeah, there's a huge opportunity for everybody to get involved. And like we said at the top, most people don't even know about mass torts. So reaching out, Ethan's a great resource. He knows a lot. I've been involved for a long time. Happy to speak to anybody so we can really help as many people as possible.
Well, for those of you who listened in, thank you for being here today. Thank you for making the trip down here, Joe. Always great to spend time together.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Yeah. So next time we're going to have some more people just like Joe who are builders in the legal space or in the entrepreneur space, building something important. I like to think what we're doing is important, but at the end of the day, my goal is just to help as many people as possible. I hope this was valuable for you, and we'll see you next time.